The marble lobby of Hartwell Industries gleamed under chandeliers, and a 70-year-old man named Walter pushed his mop in slow, patient circles. He wore a gray uniform, worn at the cuffs, and he hummed an old tune nobody recognized. For 11 years, Walter had cleaned these floors before sunrise and after sunset, greeting every employee by name. Most ignored him. A few smiled. But Walter never seemed to mind because there was a quiet steadiness in him, the kind that comes from a man who has nothing left to prove. On this particular Monday morning, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Out stepped Marcus Vane, the company's new executive vice president, freshly promoted, hungry for power. He glanced at Walter mopping near the entrance, and his lip curled with contempt. Something was about to happen that nobody in that lobby would ever forget. Marcus Vane lived for attention. He'd clawed his way up by stepping on softer people, and he believed humility was weakness. That morning, a small crowd of employees gathered in the lobby for a quarterly announcement. Marcus wanted to make an entrance. As he strode toward the elevators, his polished shoe caught the edge of Walter's wet floor sign. He stumbled, barely, then caught himself. The sign had warned him plainly, but Marcus didn't see a mistake of his own. He saw an audience. "Watch where you put your junk, old man," he snapped. "Some of us actually matter here." The lobby went quiet. Walter looked up, calm, and said softly, "I'm sorry. I put the sign right there, for safety." His gentle tone only seemed to enrage Marcus further. The executive's face flushed red with self-righteous fury. "Safety?" Marcus barked, loud enough to echo off the marble. "You think anyone cares about your little signs? You mop floors. You're nothing. You're invisible, and you should stay that way." Employees shifted uncomfortably, eyes dropping to the ground. A young receptionist named Dana opened her mouth to defend Walter, but fear of Marcus silenced her. Walter simply stood there, both hands resting on the mop handle, his expression unchanged. "Pick up this mess," Marcus sneered, kicking the bucket so soapy water splashed across Walter's shoes. "And learn your place. People like you exist to clean up after people like me." He laughed, expecting the crowd to laugh with him. Nobody did. Walter knelt slowly, wiped the water, and said only, "Of course. I'll take care of it." The patience in his voice was almost unbearable. Marcus wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone and filmed Walter on his knees. "Look at this," he announced to the lobby. "This is what failure looks like. Stay in school, folks, or you'll end up like Grandpa here." A few nervous chuckles escaped. Marcus grinned, satisfied, and straightened his designer jacket. Then he leaned down close. "I run things now," he hissed. "And the first thing I'm doing is cleaning house. Maybe I'll start with you. You're fired, old man. Effective immediately." He stood tall, basking in his cruelty, certain he had asserted his dominance for all to see. Walter rose to his feet, brushed off his knees, and met Marcus's eyes for a long, quiet moment. "You really shouldn't have done that," Walter said gently. There was no anger in it, only something deeper, something final. Marcus scoffed and walked away, certain he'd won. But across the lobby, an older woman in a tailored suit had been watching the entire scene unfold. Her name was Eleanor Briggs, the company's chief legal officer, and her face had gone pale with disbelief. She didn't move toward Walter the way you'd help a stranger. She moved toward him the way you'd move toward someone you deeply respected. "Sir," she said quietly, her voice trembling, "are you all right?" The employees noticed her tone and exchanged confused glances. Why would the powerful Eleanor Briggs speak so gently to a janitor? Walter nodded. "I'm fine, Eleanor. Thank you." He called her by her first name. She called him Sir. The lobby fell into a strange, electric silence as people began to sense that something was very, very wrong with their assumptions. Upstairs, Marcus was already bragging. He cornered two colleagues in the break room and replayed his video, laughing about putting the help in their place. But while he gloated, the building's entire mood was shifting beneath him. Eleanor had made a single phone call. Within 20 minutes, the board of directors was being notified of an urgent personnel situation. Meanwhile, Walter quietly returned his mop to the supply closet, washed his hands, and removed his gray uniform shirt. Underneath, he wore a simple, white, collared shirt. He walked, unhurried, toward the executive elevator, the private one only top leadership could access. He pressed his thumb to the scanner. It glowed green. The doors opened. A passing manager stared in shock, because that elevator had never opened for a janitor before, but it had always been programmed to open for Walter Hartwell. Hartwell. The name on the building. The name on every paycheck. The name nobody had ever connected to the humble man with the mop. Walter Hartwell had founded this company 40 years ago, built it from a single warehouse into a national empire. A decade prior, after losing his wife, he'd grown tired of boardrooms and flattery and people who only smiled because they wanted something. So he made a quiet decision. He stepped back from the spotlight, handed daily operations to executives, and chose to walk his own halls as an ordinary janitor, to see who his people really were when they thought no one important was watching. Eleanor was one of only 3 people who knew the truth. For 11 years, Walter had silently observed kindness and cruelty alike, taking note of every soul who revealed their true character. The boardroom doors opened, and Walter stepped inside. The directors rose immediately, some stunned to see him out of disguise, others simply standing out of pure respect. "Mr. Hartwell," the chairman said, "we got Eleanor's message. Is it true?" Walter sat at the head of the long table, folding his weathered hands. "It's true," he said softly. "I've spent 11 years learning who we really are as a company. Most of our people are good, decent, hard-working. But I just watched a man humiliate an elderly worker for sport in front of everyone, and threatened to fire him for placing a safety sign." He paused. "That man believes power means cruelty. I built this company on the opposite belief." The room was utterly silent. "Bring Marcus Vane up here," Walter said. "Let's give him the meeting he's been chasing his whole life." Marcus arrived grinning, still riding his high, expecting a promotion or praise. He didn't recognize the white-shirted man at the head of the table until he was halfway into the room. Then his stomach dropped. "You," he stammered. "You're the janitor." Walter nodded calmly. "I'm Walter Hartwell," he said. "I founded this company. I sign every check, including yours. And I just watched you kick a bucket of water onto my shoes and call me invisible." Marcus's face drained of all color. He began to babble apologies, excuses, desperate denials. "Sir, I would never, if I had known who you were." Walter raised a single hand and the room went still. "That's the problem," he said quietly. "You only respect people when you think they're powerful. You showed me exactly who you are when you thought no one was watching." Walter slid a folder across the table. Inside were complaints, months of them, filed by junior employees Marcus had bullied and dismissed. HR had buried them, intimidated into silence. "I've heard whispers for a while," Walter said. "Today I saw it with my own eyes. You are terminated, Mr. Vane. Effective immediately." He echoed Marcus's exact words back to him, gentle but unshakable. Security appeared at the door. Marcus's arrogance shattered into pleading, then anger, then silence, as the weight of his own behavior crushed down on him. "You humiliated a man in public," Walter added. "So your dismissal will be just as public. Everyone in that lobby will know why." As Marcus was escorted out, he passed the very crowd he'd performed for. This time, no one laughed. They simply watched justice walk by. That afternoon, Walter gathered the staff in the lobby, not as a janitor, but as their founder. He thanked them for their work, then walked straight to Dana, the receptionist who'd wanted to defend him. "You almost spoke up today," he said. "That courage matters." He promoted her to lead a new employee dignity initiative. He restored the buried complaints and personally apologized to every worker Marcus had wronged. Then he made an announcement that stunned everyone. He would keep cleaning the lobby every morning, mop in hand, because the day a founder forgets his floors is the day he forgets his people. The employees applauded, not out of fear, but out of genuine love. Walter simply smiled, picked up his mop, and returned to his quiet circles, humming that same old tune. The humble man had never needed a throne to be a king. Walter Hartwell proved that real power isn't loud. It's how you treat people who can't do anything for you. Marcus learned that lesson the hard way, in front of the very audience he tried to impress. If this story gave you that deeply satisfying feeling of justice, do something kind for someone today. And hit that subscribe button so you never miss another quiet justice story. We post new satisfying tales of karma and comeuppance every week, where the humble rise and the arrogant finally face the consequences they've earned. Tap the bell, share this with someone who needs to see it, and tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were Walter? Remember, never look down on anyone, because you never know who's quietly holding the keys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.